Hey guys, it's Malcolm from Automotive Addicts, bringing you another vehicle today. Today I have the 2020 Jeep Gladiator. This is the Mojave trim, which is essentially the top of the line trim for the Jeep Gladiator this year. The Jeep Gladiator, of course, is an all-new Jeep for the 2020 model year. And if you're all familiar with Jeeps, this is something new and fresh from the Jeep brand that essentially turns the Jeep into a pickup truck. Now, it kind of competes with some of the small pickup trucks, and the versatility and the fun factor of this vehicle are just off the charts, in my opinion. There's nothing else like this on the market currently. I know some of you are probably comparing the Jeeps to the new Bronco that's coming out, but right now, we still got just the Jeep as one of the most capable off-roading vehicles around. And the Gladiator takes the versatility level up just another notch, just in having that truck bed in the back. And for mostly keeping in tradition with some of the Wrangler folks out there, the purists, the hardcore off-roaders, the Gladiator is still a hardcore off-roading vehicle, you know, despite it having the longer wheelbase and all. I think the longer wheelbase does kind of hamper it as far as really getting dirty, you know, off-roading when you get to some serious terrain. That wheelbase is something to think about. It's about 19 inches longer than the Wrangler. And as far as what you uncover underneath the Gladiator, you essentially find most Wrangler parts, but they're combined with some of the Ram parts as well. You know, the upper and lower control arms of the suspension system are taken from the Ram. You do have these tricked out Fox shocks on here with external reservoirs as well. Reservoir down here. And the Gladiator is still powered by the same 3.6 liter V6 engine you find in the Wrangler. 285 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque. And up here, you have your LED headlights. Got your LED daytime running lights and signals. LED fog lights down here. Got your manual hood latches. And underneath, you got your 3.6 liter V6 engine here. It's pretty dirty, of course. I did take this thing off-road several times, and I'll talk about that a little later. But quickly moving to the back of the new Gladiator, got this optional bed cover back here, dampened tailgate, and of course you have a spray and liner back here, an easily closed tailgate, towing hitch, LED tail lights are full LEDs, the rear Fox shocks also with the reservoir, and you got a manual opening rear sliding window in the middle. Now, right now, everything, of course, is attached to the vehicle. The doors are removable as you find in any other Wrangler. Gladiator, same way. It takes me about 25 minutes to get all these doors removed, you know, the bolts and everything. But here's the rear. You have your window controls here in the middle. USB ports. You have a standard USB-A and a USB-C. 4 USB ports in total. And a 115 volt plug. And moving up to the front. And the roof panels are pretty easy to take off. You have these several latches in the back and then the side. And these panels are actually the insulated, sound deadening roof panels. And for this Mojave trim, the cloth seats do have the embroidering here and the accent stitching throughout the seats. You have this accent stitching on the steering wheel and vent outlines, nice touches. Leather shift boot, and your manual transfer case. There's something nice about having a manual transfer case. Alright, we're inside the 2020 Jeep Gladiator Mojave. Gonna go ahead and start it up. Push button start. Have the neat Jeep graphic here on the small LCD screen in the middle. One thing to know about the Jeep Gladiator, it's very familiar up front compared to the Wrangler. Everything's pretty much identical. You know, you go through the dashboard here, you notice a familiar area, just like the new Wrangler. Nothing's really changed here. Except, of course, going back, you know, to the back, you know, your back seats, the setup is different, of course, as you expect for the Gladiator, it being essentially a pickup truck. And moving on to the infotainment screen is, of course, FCA's familiar 8.4-inch infotainment touchscreen. Everything about it, I've said it before in my other reviews, I love the system. I love the versatility of the system and how responsive it is. And on the Gladiator, you have your rear view camera, and you have your front camera, which has your trail lines for where your wheels land as you turn. And of course, your camera cleaning system here. You can actually clean the camera, which comes in handy. And moving down here to your physical climate controls. And you do have some vehicle controls here. You have your start-stop system right here, which I disable every time I get in the car. Got your power windows down here, 12-volt cigarette lighter adapter here. USB ports, you got your standard USB-A and your USB-C port. The gear shifter, it is an 8-speed automatic transmission in this one. Oddly enough, you can get a standard 6-speed manual transmission, which is a standard feature. And your manual transfer case, which I love these things. It's something gratifying about switching your manual transfer case. Bar over here, glove box. And up here you have your telematics system, the assist and the SOS, and your passenger airbag status. And down here for your LED headlights and LED fog lights, and the rear cargo area light, and your rear cargo power on-off toggle. And we have your auxiliary power for auxiliary items you can attach to the vehicle. One thing to note about Jeep, the aftermarket is just so vast on these vehicles. There's so many things out there. If you can think of it, it's probably out there in the aftermarket. And you have your axle lock system here for locking the axles, and the Off-Road Plus. This is actually essential. I used this several times in going off-road. It disables the traction control and stability control, and pretty much lets you do as you will in going off-road. It does have some limitations. It brings up a menu readout for your pitch and roll. You can bring up your trail cam. You got accessory gauges here as well. Just monitoring your temperatures and your drivetrain status and what your transfer case is in, steering angle, and if your axles are locked or not. And to finish it off, you do have adaptive cruise control on here. And of course, with that, you get your forward collision warning and your forward collision emergency braking. All right, setting off in the 2020 Jeep Gladiator Mojave. So I took this vehicle off-road several times in some serious, well, I don't want to say serious, but some sand areas. Pretty much that's what this thing's made for, some sandy dunes, some steep areas, and loose sand. After all, it's named Mojave for a reason. Mojave Desert, go figure. What I've noticed in driving the Jeep Gladiator the whole time this week is there's a good balance in driving it on-road and off-road. I want to say the Gladiator, just like the Wrangler, is still more geared toward being an off-road vehicle versus an on-road vehicle. It's one of the most capable off-roading vehicles you can find and buy currently on the market. The V6 engine in here does pretty well. It's a proven engine. Being mated to the 8-speed automatic transmission, the computers are very smart in selecting the right gear and actually holding the right gear, especially when you put it in your off-road plus mode. It'll actually hold some of the lower gears. So the added versatility of the Jeep Gladiator over the Wrangler is the selling point in it. I think as far as marketing goes, the Gladiator kind of nails it as far as the dual vehicle for people. You can commute in this every day. It is comfortable on the road. The ride quality is very good. Due to that longer wheelbase in this, it rides better than any Wrangler out there. The Fox shocks on this Mojave trim, a lot of good dampening on the road. Still stays smooth. It's not jumpy or jittery. The one downfall, you still have that traditional Jeep Wrangler drift in the steering. The steering system is pretty much, taken from the Wrangler. It still has that drift. It'll, tend to drift left and right, and you have to compensate constantly through the steering wheel. But that's something a lot of Jeep people, they just live with. They don't complain about it. They just do what they have to do. That's another Jeep thing. Just like waving to all the other Jeep people. I got to remind myself, every time a Jeep passes by, I got to wave at that person, or else, they're going to look at me funny. Performance-wise, the Gladiator is okay. It's not a slouch. None of the Jeep Wranglers are, especially with this V6 engine. Like I said, it's a proven V6, and being mated to this 8-speed automatic transmission that's pretty smart on the gear selections. It does well out on the road. Where things get kind of interesting is taking this thing off-road. You do find the transmission slipping the torque converter quite a bit, and compensating, especially when you have it in 4 high. 4 low is a totally different situation. 4 low, you got all that additional torque, sent through all four wheels that really elevate things and take them to another level off-roading. Like I said before, you do have to be mindful of the longer wheelbase on the Gladiator versus the Wrangler. When you do take this off-road, if you go through some steep hills, once you crest that hill, you got to think about that longer wheelbase. So with just any vehicle I get on Automotive Addicts, I will do it at 0 to 60, and the Jeep Gladiator, the Mojave version of it with the V6 engine, does 0 to 60 in about 7.5 seconds or so, give or take. It's a tad bit of wheel spin, 50 and 60. So the Jeep Gladiator can actually tow a little over 7,000 pounds when it's properly configured. The vehicle I have now with Mojave version of it, it's stated 4,500 pounds for towing. Payload, you can get about 1,200 pounds out there in the truck bed. Still, like any Jeep Wrangler, the Jeep Gladiator is no different in getting up to speed. 70 miles per hour on the highway. You do get quite a bit of wind noise. Believe it or not, I think the insulated roof panels help a lot as far as the noise goes. But you do get that intrusion of road noise, wind noise. And one thing to know, this is essentially the only pickup truck, small pickup truck you can get that you can remove the doors and our roof panels and enjoy the outdoor elements. That's one thing you're not going to find in anything else. I don't think any of the Jeep guys really talk about fuel consumption, but if you must know, 17 miles per gallon city, 22 miles per gallon highway. Now the highway fuel consumption is considerably down a few miles per gallon versus the Wrangler on the Gladiator. And when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, you're talking about the value you get in a vehicle like this. Like I said, I will note, once again, I hate to beat a dead horse, but this is the do-it-all vehicle. I mean, like I said, you got your commuter, you got your pickup truck, you can strip out the doors, the roof panels, enjoy the outdoor elements, and it's still a pickup truck at the end of the day that can do some serious off-roading. So getting to the numbers that really matter, the 2020 Jeep Gladiator starts at $33,500 for the base sport trim. Moving all the way up to the Mojave trim, which there are several trims in between that, you're looking at $62,000 out the door. That's a pretty competitive price in some aspects when you compare it to some other pickup trucks, but when you compare it to small pickup trucks, it's really not. But considering all that you get with the Jeep Gladiator and being a hardcore off-roading pickup truck, I think it's worth it. But that's pretty much all I have for you today for the 2020 Jeep Gladiator. Hope you come back, subscribe, smash that like button, and until then, I will catch you guys in the next one.